Hello there, good evening and many thanks for joining us on Rwanda Television News tonight. We do hope you had yourselves a great start to your week. And now, this is what is coming up on Edition tonight. Refugees from the Democratic Republic of Congo, mostly Kinyarwanda speakers, continue to enter in Rwanda, fleeing war between the M23 and the armed forces of the Democratic Republic of Congo in conjunction with FDLR and other rebels in the country. The Ministry of Agriculture and Animal Resources has announced that they increasing the area under cultivation to more than 100,000 hectares may not be achieved by 2024 due to various obstacles. We are very glad to have you join us tonight, joining you straight from the heart of Africa, Kigali. My name is Sam Kalisa. As we kick it off tonight, refugees from the Democratic Republic of Congo, mostly Kinyarwanda speakers, continue to enter in Rwanda, fleeing war between the M23 group and the armed forces of the Democratic Republic of Congo in conjunction with the FDLR and other rebel groups in the country. The arriving refugees are being welcomed in the Kijote temporary camp and then being transferred to the former Nkamira camp in Kanzenze, Rubavu district. Prince Manzi starts us off tonight with this report.
These refugees from Masisi and Rutshuru in DRC are being welcomed in the Kijote temporary camp, where they spend a short time and their profiles are checked before being transferred to the former Nkamira camp, which has been rebuilt and has received 648 refugees. They say that they are fleeing violence and killings targeting Tutsi Kinyarwanda speakers that are considered as allies of the M23 in the war between this group and the army forces of the DRC in conjunction with other rebel groups based in DRC, including the FDLR, a terrorist group made up of some of the perpetrators of the genocide against the Tutsi in Rwanda.
When I went out, they said the cockroaches are coming. Cockroaches are going to gather to execute us. The Tutsi who are here are to be chopped and eliminated. That is why we are fleeing, because we are being tortured and killed. I left everything behind, the mattress. I'm sleeping on the stone.
I fled from the FDLR because they were hunting us, stating that we are Rwandans and yet we are Congolese. Those fleeing into Rwanda said that they were helped by fellow Congolese that are not being hunted, as well as army forces of that country, but at the expense of money.
We
searched and by chance were able to sell our domestic animal and then ran away, because when you pay a Congolese army, you are let free.
It
was a long journey, hiding so that they won't find you, until we reached Goma. We went through forests till we reached in Rwanda. In Rwanda, in camps where the refugees are being accommodated, they appreciate how they were welcomed, but have some requests. We would like to request for the support in terms of medications and where to sleep, because we have no other way. Even though those in charge of the Nkamira camp did not comment on these refugees' requests, different levels, including non-government organizations, are doing every possible for the well-being of these refugees. The Nkamira camp that was no longer accommodating refugees, it is being rebuilt and establishing in different infrastructures such as water, clinics, and others, for it to be able to acquire 400 refugees in the Kijote temporary camp and other refugees who might enter Rwanda anytime, as each day at least 100 refugees are acquired on the Rubavu-Goma border. These refugees started entering Rwanda since October 2022, coming from Rutshuru and Masisi regions. 2,943 refugees are recorded to have crossed into Rwanda. 1,760 of them were accommodated in Mahama camp in Ikirehe district. Prince Manzi, RwandaTV News.
Thank you, Prince. Moving ahead, the Ministry of Agriculture and Animal Resources has announced that increasing the area under cultivation to more than 100,000 hectares may not be achieved by 2024 due to various obstacles that the program faced. Adam Squizera reports.
It's a daytime. We're in the fields near Lake Chihuahua in Chiwengasal, Mayande sector in Wujisera district. Beans, wheat, plantains, peppers and the others dominantly vegetables are cultivated here, and some are being harvested. Farmers like Viziarene Felicien and his fellows in the Abakora Murafa cooperative says that they're never interrupted by drought. We used to cultivate twice a year, and during dry season we not harvest, and now you see that we are harvesting pepper, wheat and exporting it to the international market, which leads to our development. In dry season, we cultivate. For those who don't have this irrigation process, during this season, their crops get damaged, which leads to some loss. In 2019, these farmers started irrigating 10 hectares using pipes instead of pumping water from Lake Chihuahua with the use of solar energy. Where I now harvest my pepper, it's a half hectare. My recent harvest, I harvested 520 kilograms in the last week. As to that, 1 kilo cost 400 francs. Then you understand that we earn much as well. Bringing irrigation infrastructures to these farmers is one of the things that have been done in the past 5 years since the beginning of the National Strategy for Transformation, NST1, as its goal was to reach more than 100,000 hectares of irrigated land area by 2024. However, the Minister of State in the Ministry of Agriculture and Animal Husbandry, Minagri, Dr. Musafir Idefons, noted that according to the current state, this achievement might not be achieved due to the various reasons. Currently, we've already irrigated the cultivation area up to 70,000 hectares. All this consists of various zones of irrigation. Even into those places where they irrigate using small-scale irrigation technologies, we believe that by 2024, we will be at 88,000 hectares. As you see, the goal will not be achieved yet, but we have like 12,000, which will be completed in 3 years after NST1. We did not achieve the goal very well due to some circumstances, but we won't stop, as we hope that in other transformation strategy, we will achieve more. Dr. Musafir also pointed out that the cost of construction of irrigation infrastructures is also one of the barriers in this program. No other thing used in irrigation except money. So for the people to understand the cost of irrigation, there are various kinds of irrigation process according to the equipments. But in total cost, for those large irrigation machines, you find that it reached to almost 20 millions per 1 hectare. So if you want to know the cost of it, multiply all those hectares with that 20 million. You understand it can lead to some trillions. So we do it due to the availability of the national budget, as you understand that it's a process. Currently, in Rwanda, there are 500,000 hectares of cultivatable land, and the goal is that this will be achieved before 2050. Adam Squizera, RTV News.
The Rwanda Investigation Bureau has arrested a 20-year-old Shema Prince who is suspected of fraud-related crimes. Some people gave him money to import cars for them, but in vain. Jessica Gassaro with more.
Some of those who gave him money for importing cars through his company named P&A Group says that they had approached banks to get loan so they can buy cars from abroad with the help of this company, but they waited in vain.
We gave money because he usually orders a car and brings it to rent it, and then we found out that he's not doing that, and I had given him 4.5 million, and he was supposed to give me the car on the 1st November last year.
We have a problem. We've met a scammer who stole money from us by telling us he's selling cars and he was not selling, but we had paid him 10 million. Are people who invest in the country people who really have the capacity to invest in the country, or people who don't have the capacity? There are those who start filing complaints to the Rwanda Investigation Bureau after seeing that there's no hope of getting the cars they ordered, and after talking to the entrepreneur and admitting to them he had spent all the money and nothing is left. The Rwanda Investigation Bureau confirms that it's received 5 complaints from people who say they have paid money to ship cars from abroad to P&A Group, but they have not received them. The Rwanda Investigation Bureau spokesperson Dr. Murangira Thierry says that they have arrested Shema Prince, who is being investigated for fraud-related crime.
Arega umugabo witwa Shema Prince uhagarariye company yitwa P&A Group.
They are showing a man named Shema Prince who represents a company called P&A Group, which is a company that imports cars from abroad and sells them in Rwanda. They claim that they gave him money to buy a car from abroad and ship it here in Rwanda, but they did not receive the cars and the money was not returned. Now, he was arrested and locked up at the Kicukiro RIB station, and he is being investigated for the crime of extortion. So, the investigation is ongoing to see that no other people have been deceived in this way.
Pereza rigamije kugira ngo hamenyekane niba nta bandi bantu yaba yarashutse muri ubwo buryo agira ngo abatwarire amafaranga.
The Rwanda Investigation Bureau spokesperson Murangira Thierry urges people to be more careful and avoid giving out money to people promising them to get rich quickly.
Ko amayeri bakoresha bakwizeza ko bazakwikungukira.
Because the brokers promise you that they will profit you quickly and show you that you are going to profit. You must first ask yourself if these things are really possible, because they play with people's minds. When we talk about playing with people's minds is when they try to promise you a miracle and assure you that you benefit from it, yet it is not even true. Practically, one has to go first and think if it is possible, because it is easy to tell you in words, but in practical way, is that benefit even possible?
In addition to this company of P&A Group, which is mentioned in this fraud crime, in the past few years, there are other people who gave money to Tom Transfer in hope to get imported vehicles but haven't received their cars. The Rwanda Investigation Bureau announced that there are other cases that are still being invested and that in few days, the result of fraud victim will be announced. Jessica Agasaro, RTV News.
Reports indicate that the richest 1% grabbed nearly 2/3 of the world's wealth. According to the economic experts, governments should encourage the richest to invest in projects that generate jobs to many, and also follow up on how these projects impact lives of the communities. Prince Mazi with more.
A large gap between the richest and the poor is demonstrated by the report of the Oxfam International released on Monday. According to Seth Kwizera, the executive director of the Economic Policy Research Network, Rwanda, governments are to encourage the richest to invest in projects that create jobs for many.
Governments should encourage investors to focus on those investments which are giving more opportunities to the population in terms of job creation. If I have my own factory, I should think, of course, what are the benefits it will give me and my family, but also what will be the benefits to other communities surrounding my activities. So, like, the government should make sure they have like specific incentives to those investments which are opening the opportunities to, the community in general to have opportunities of job creation, employment in the activities.
The Oxfam report demonstrates the inequality rate between the rich and the poor continued to increase in the last 10 years. Currently, 2/3 of the global wealth, worth $42 trillion, lies only in 1% of the world's population. Bernard Mbonigaba and Marie-Claire Mugwaneza also iterates that governments should collaborate with the richest in eradication of unemployment and suggest that taxes imposed on them should also return in the communities as loans for the citizens' development activities.
Leta igomba gucaginga abantu bafite amafaranga menshi umusoro.
The government should impose taxes on the richest and then distribute the money in citizens so that they can invest in different development activities.
First, we need industries in rural areas because they are usually found in cities. Establishing industry in rural areas would help the lives of citizens and women specifically.
The richest 1% grabbed 63% of the global wealth, while 99% of the world's population share 37% of the remaining wealth, worth $16 trillion. The Oxfam report demonstrates that $2.7 billion are added on the wealth of the richest daily. The executive director of the Economic Policy Research Network, Rwanda, Seth Kwizera, states that it is also essential that the investors enhance the culture of corporate social responsibility.
Investors, like private sector federation, should enhance the culture of corporate social responsibility. If I have my activities, my factory, I should think always, what am I benefiting? How am I sharing with the population surrounding my activities? Maybe contributing to building hospitals, schools, roads, and others.
As the profits increased for the richest in 2022, there were 1.7 billion of population living in countries where prices of foods, petroleum, and other goods continued to rise, as well as 820 million people facing hunger. The Oxfam report is released as the World Economic Forum is taking place in Davos, Sweden. This year's 5 days World Economic Forum has a theme, Cooperation in a Fragmented World. Prince Manzi, RwandaTV News.
Small business owners are asking the Rwanda Revenue Authority to train them on how to use the electronic invoicing system, since the use of electronic billing machine for payments is now mandatory.
This is the Rwabutura market in Kigali City. Some of the small business owners show that they have some information about issuing an electronic receipt using an EBM technology. There are some of the view that this system should only be mandatory for business with large capital. Those who have some real capital should be the one using EBM. But for the tailors, the shoes retailers, out there who don't even have a physical store, they shouldn't ask us to give an EBM proof of payment. Rather, they should ask traders with big stores.
EBM requires an educated person, and some of the traders you see here are illiterate. But who will use it? All these traders have to leave their businesses and become vagabonds.
We saw them coming and telling us that we should find EBM and use it, but we asked them to give us more time. The Rwanda Revenue Authority shows that it has been in a campaign for 3 years to encourage all the traders to use this method, with which traders were trained on how to it. The Assistant Commissioner in charge of Taxpayer Services and Communication Division at the Rwanda Revenue Authority, Uwitonze Jean Paulin, explains that there is no cost of training traders on the use of EBM and that using this method has been available to taxpayers.
We encourage small business owners to install EBM in their smartphones, as this does not require a printer or printing paper because it sends invoice to the customer by message. But there are also those who will ask to come with their machine for the second version, and all of this is free. Whether it's a telephone or your laptop, we can install it for free, and the training we offer is also free.
The Rwanda Revenue Authority says that although there has been enough time to sensitize the public about this method, something that will continue since issuing an EBM receipt is mandatory. Whoever that doesn't follow the rule will be subjected to penalties. Hence, taxpayers should avoid it.
When a law comes, it has to be obeyed and followed. So we ask you to obey what the law says in order to avoid penalties and other provisions of it.
The Rwanda Revenue Authority show that measures have been taken to simplify the way for taxpayers to learn about this system, and about 80,000 EBM machines had been given. Small business owners are advised to use this method as it helps them collect business data. Jessica Agasaro, RTV News.
Umuhoza Solange from Funge sector in Gwamagana district studied her primary and secondary school in a difficult situation because she was born in a poor family. But after scoring highest marks in secondary school final exams of the 2021-2022 academic year, she was given a job where she's planning to assist her mother. Adam Squizera with more.
Umuhoza Solange is the firstborn in a family of 5 children. She says that her parents separated due to conflicts, and later her father abandoned his parental responsibilities.
He used to come every day drunk, beating our mother. Then mother, she was later fed up with that.
Solange's mother, who was in the second class of the category, says that the government supported her through the VUP program, which helped her to build a house. Mukabadisa Denise, the mother of Solange, says that after Solange passed her primary school final exam, she immediately sold her family land in order to get school fees, even though she later dropped out due to the lack of school fees.
After getting in senior 2, we lacked school fees, where I decided to drop out from school, expecting the God's mercy.
Later, the teachers and students at Faragao School, where Solange studied, generated the support for her to resume her studies as they knew her ability.
She came 10th in the country. More to that, she was the first in the school. As to that, she always getting 90%. Here in Fawe, to get 90%, it requires much effort. She also used to help her fellow students in upper classes. Solange invested much effort, not because she was brighter than others, but she was able to work very hard and also help other students.
Umuhoza Solange is one of the 34 students Equity Bank recently hired and promised to help them to continue their university studies. Solange knows that this job will facilitate her to support her siblings in their studies.
I haven't yet started university. All the amount I'll be paid, I won't spend it in useless things. Instead, I'll pay school fees for my siblings so that she will be able to study and develop themselves as I developed.
Solange aims to continue studying and working hard until she will establish a medical center which will benefit local people from her area. According to the Director General of the Rwanda Basic Education Board, Reb Nelson Barushimana, knows that the issue of school dropouts is brought on by a number of issues, including a low family income. However, he also noted that by this time, no child deserves to drop out from school for any reason. The future is determined by the education which is delivered to the children by now. That means when you give a child a quality education, it's like creating a useful generation for the country. Even though Solange's family is still suffering from poverty, when you visit them, you can see that they are hopeful for the bright future. Adam Squizera, RTV News.
There are various monuments in the city of Kigali and other parts of the country which are made by different artists, and most of them represent the culture and the history of Rwanda. We do have a story of a successful artist in Rwanda with Betty Motoni.
In Kigali city, various monuments have been put up, mostly expressing the culture, history and tourism. A 36-year-old Venuste Habimana, a professional artisan who made various monuments found in different places, he reveals how he started his career.
When I was young, before I was in school, I loved drawing. I started year 1, but I really loved art. I loved studying too, so when I reached in P6, art was much in me. I would make an art and I myself love it. So I started art when I was P2 or P3.
The fact that what he does benefits him and the country, but also his monuments being loved and appreciated by different people, inspires him and helps him to improve.
I married, I built a house, but what makes me happy is the way I made very many monuments in Rwanda talking about culture. What makes me very happy is when someone passes on a monument I made and comment on it positively.
5-ton silverback monument seen at the Kicukiro Sonatube roundabout was made by Venuste Habimana. He says that achieving all this requires him to be diligent, as he explains.
This image can take 2 to 4 days to be well done. I started it on Monday and I'm finishing it today. What I have achieved, I bought a land, but what makes me happy is that people see what I do.
Venuste Habimana has a dream of making a long monument in Rwanda of between 30 to 50 meters high.
I love tourism. I want to see myself making a very high monument, talking about different things about Rwanda, explaining where it came from and where it is now. But I show it in very big monuments, containing a museum, a coffee shop. It will be more than the ones you see abroad, of the height of 30 or 50 meters.
Although he tries his best to make quality monuments, he still faces some challenges that hinder him from doing his work, and he's requesting the government and the private sectors to ease the way of getting raw materials.
The workplace, sometimes it is small, sometimes it is hard to get raw materials. Most of them are made from abroad. Transporting the monuments to the destination, it is also challenging. So it requires to get some financial aid, because the person on his own, it is very difficult to afford a material of 100 million. So with the government support, we can teach many and make many monuments for the foreigners to visit and give some revenues to the country. But getting the raw material is still a challenge.
Artisan Venuste Habimana has about 40 monuments in the country and 20 outside Rwanda. His monuments cost from 100,000 to 20 million Rwandan francs. Betty Mutoni, RwandaTV News.
And viewers, report sums up our tonight's edition on behalf of the entire news production as well as the technical team that made it happen. Thank you for being with us on this edition of Rwanda Television News. Up until next time, stay safe and have a fruitful week ahead.